Hey, deserving listeners, The Ultimatum on Netflix. Let's watch.
This is the final week before the ultimatum.
I just want to make sure that Randall is being fully transparent about his feelings for Madeline. I would just like to know if it's deeper than what he's told me.
Makes total sense. So Shanique is worried, which is rational, that her partner, Randall, is wanting to be with Madeline instead because of the way they talked about each other. And so makes total sense. That's, I guess, the purpose of the show, or the risk of the show, I suppose, that you consented to your partner and almost asked them to please date someone else. And so they had a connection. I don't think it was very strong, but it was there. And so Shanique is concerned about that. She doesn't want to lose Randall, and let's see how she communicates about that.
I need to know.
The thing I realized is, like, Madeline never really says the things that she needs to work on, and maybe you know because you live with her, but what have you seen from Madeline that she can work on?
Okay, so I don't know where she's going with this. Maybe she'll come back around to communicating what she wants to communicate, which is, I'm worried I'm going to lose you to Madeline. What are your feelings about me? What are your feelings about Madeline? Instead, she's asking, what should Madeline work on? So I don't know what's happening, but let's keep watching.
I mean, at this point, it's none of my concern, truthfully.
Yeah, that's great, but, like, can you say it? Like, I'm still struggling.
What are you trying?
I'm saying, can you just say what Madeline can work on?
I don't even understand where this could be coming from. Is she asking for Madeline's sake? Like, she's asking Randall so that Randall can tell her, so that she can tell Madeline, look, Randall said you should work on this, and maybe you could. Like, what possible reason would there be for grilling Randall? I mean, at the very least, you would think she would explain. Hey, look, I'm asking because he just said, look, she's in the, it's kind of an issue I'm not really worried about. So, yeah, I'm pretty confused.
Madeline is an X factor. She doesn't matter right now.
You know what? Don't piss me off right now. Please don't. Please don't.
What are you talking about?
Babe. Okay.
Yikes. So, don't piss me off. I'm getting angry. He's answering the question, I think, pretty reasonably. He said X factor. I think he wants to say she's an X, because X factor actually would be the opposite, I think, of what he's trying to say. But he's saying she's in the past, and, it was a 3-week thing, and it's over. I'm with you now. Like, why are you asking me? Because he could perceive this as kind of a trap, right? He could think, well, there were a number of things I observed in her that I actually didn't like about her, and I guess she could work on that. She could work on that. But if I say that to Shanique, is that going to somehow trigger her? Plus, the cameras are rolling. I don't want to be, speaking ill of someone else. And why are we talking about this anyway? So, I think he's answering reasonably. I think he could do even more, maybe, by saying, well, Shanique, I'd be happy to answer this question, but can you tell me why you're asking me this question? Because I don't really, she's in the past. I don't even really want to think about that. I just want to think about you. So that might help. But I don't know. But Shanique, up until this point, has indicated signs of insecure attachment and experiences that would have taught her that people can't be trusted, that no one's going to love her, that she's not worthy of love or something. At the very least, she has a really hard time with these kinds of interactions. At the very least, she has exhibited high conflict with Randall in particular, but kind of with Zay. I would hypothesize at this point that, again, her primary goal here is, I am worried I'm going to lose Randall, and I don't want to lose him. And then kind of secondary to that is, am I going to lose Randall to Madeline? Because it's not specifically, I'm worried I'm going to lose Randall to Madeline. I'm worried I'm going to lose him in general, and I'm worried right now about Madeline. So that's what I'll say. But because of her relational history, her traumas in the past, which I don't know, it's just speculation. My dog is barking. She is probably a delivery, I'm guessing. She doesn't trust and is worried about being upfront because there's this, and we can all learn from this, that to be truly vulnerable, to go think about for yourself, to go to your partner when you're jealous or when you feel distance, to just go straight to your partner and be extremely vulnerable and talking from your heart, from the foundation of your experience, which is, I feel distance, or I saw you texting with someone else, and it's not your fault, but I had a feeling, an emerging feeling of fear that I was going to lose you. It could be irrational, I don't know. Can you reassure me that you're not going to leave me? Do you love me? And I know that might sound kind of crazy, that I need that reassurance, but I do. Okay, so that's often the reality as what's happening, and I think that's what's happening for Shanique. But to do that is so scary, because not only are you scared to lose your partner, because that's what you're concerned with, but you're also scared that they're going to laugh at you, that they're going to reject you. You've laid yourself bare, and if in the past that did not go well, either in your childhood or with past romantic relationships, then you will be very scared to do that. You're predicting that it's not going to go well. So instead of saying that, you'll figure out some other way to say it, like, who are you texting? Or how come you're so distant? Or you're always so distant all the time. These are very indirect ways of trying to communicate what we're really feeling. I wonder if this is her doing that, but it's so far indirect. I can't even imagine that Randall would, because if someone comes at you and says, who are you texting? Are you texting your ex-girlfriend? Then it wouldn't be that hard to surmise, oh, they're worried that they're going to lose me, and they're jealous, they're concerned. They think I'm cheating on them. It wouldn't be that hard to take a guess on that, and I recommend doing that, because if both people kind of work on that and understand the foundation of things, then things go better. But her asking Randall, what could Madeline work on, is so far afield that either it doesn't come from that foundation, that's the way they were editing it, or it does come from that foundation, and it's so far afield because she doesn't trust, because she distrusts so much that she can't even be slightly indirect, that Randall will not be able to detect this. Let's see how this goes.
Okay. Because help me understand.
I'm asking you, what the fuck did y'all talk about? Clearly, y'all had a great fucking experience.
It doesn't matter.
Right, there it comes out. So hopefully Randall would be able to detect what she is very indirectly, in a very unfair, hostile manner, communicating. Again, she was the one, I think, she even said this in the previous episode, that asked Randall to be on the show. She consented. Randall, I want you to date someone else. That's what she asked him. He said, okay. He dated someone else. And now you're angry at him because they had a connection, or they became friendly, because that's the whole point. So let's rewind that, because I think there's some things to say about specifically what she said.
Help me understand.
I'm asking you, what the fuck did y'all talk about? Clearly, y'all had a great fucking experience.
Yeah. I'm asking you, what the F did you talk about? Clearly, you had a great effing experience. I think that's what she said. So, yeah, it's unfair. It's hostile. It's not really addressing what you're intending on addressing. It inadvertently actually causes defensiveness in him, I'm guessing, and will push him away. You're afraid you're going to lose him, and instead of being functional and communicating from the heart, you come at him extremely indirectly, and then when he's like answering the question in a reasonable way, and then he's confused, why are you pressing this issue? You start yelling at him, and of course, this is edited, so who knows what really happened, but I'm guessing it's at least somewhat akin to this. And it's now, I would never look at Shanique and say, what's wrong with you? How come you're doing this? It's because of triggered traumas. It's because of triggered relational traumas, and a track record of showing you can't trust people, and that you shouldn't be vulnerable. You might also have never had role models that showed proper and healthy, emotional discussions. So she's not to blame for that. And my tone might kind of indicate that. So I'm not saying that. What she clearly deserves is to explore that, either in therapy or otherwise, and have corrective experiences so that she doesn't shoot herself in the foot.
It doesn't matter.
It does.
Why? I think you want me to say something that I hated about Madeline. I think that's what you want me to say.
Okay, interesting. I had not thought of that. That does make sense. And okay, Randall, it's reasonable that you'd be defensive because she's attacking you for nothing. But if you're more calm and she's more triggered, you want to have the situation go better, then maybe step into that space and be like, okay, Shanique, I don't think you're being very nice to me, but I think I understand what's happening. You think you're going to lose me, and you want me to speak critically about Madeline because you want to know that I don't want to be with her. Let me say, I didn't like this about her. I didn't like that. I didn't like that. And I want to be with you. And it was a very short-term thing with Madeline. And even of the things I liked about her, who knows who the real her was? It was just a short amount of time. So if you're worried about Madeline, don't worry about Madeline. In fact, I think what he probably would say is, forget about Madeline, because that's a non-issue. What the issue is you and me. Like the way you just talk to me. Like the way you talk to me makes me feel really hurt. It's like you're yelling at me about something that I don't think is fair to me, and that it hurts my feelings, and it makes it hard for me to be relaxed around you. And so forget about Madeline. Let's talk about you and I, you and me. But let's see what he says here.
You want me to say something that I hated. My thing is, why does it even matter? Why is that? How should that even equate to what we're going through right now?
If it was such a great experience, you should be able to easily answer the fucking question.
Well, maybe that's why it's hard for me to explain what she needs to work on, because we had a good experience.
Great, say less.
You're saying?
Yeah, he's not helping, but he's not the main driver of the conflict right now, but he's not helping. It's just like to say, we had such a great time. I don't really have anything negative to say about her. Like, see the situation for what it is. It's clear she doesn't want to lose you, and she's looking for some indication that you don't want to be with Madeline and you want to be with her. I think that's kind of obvious. So, maybe he will say something along those lines.
A little confused because she required all these things out of me. But truthfully, like tonight is bringing me back to the old Shanique and what the things that she's been saying that she needs to work on. And I haven't seen that tonight, at least.
You want something that you expect me to give you, but if you're not giving me what I expect, I can't just give you what you want.
Yeah, I think this is indicative of their previous conflicts. We've seen, similar to Danielle and Nick on Love is Blind, there was a routinized sequence to their fights that we would observe, or I would observe, and we've seen that with them as well. She will come out with, initially, I think, appearing calm, but asking or saying things that are, I think, confusing or triggering of him being defensive. He tries to deal with it. She gets triggered because she either isn't aware of what is at stake in her heart, or he actually just is triggering to her and isn't thinking straight in terms of what he should be saying in the moment. Anyway, she gets hostile pretty quick, and then she will turn away and she'll stonewall, and she'll roll her eyes or literally just walk out of the room. And then he is trying to use his words to get her back or to calm her down or something. But it's just a lot of words that he says. I think he's kind of panicking, and he's not making a lot of sense, which I get, because he's just like, what is happening right now? But yeah, so when I talk about attachment theory, we could talk about, with her anyway, either preoccupied attachment or disorganized attachment, honestly. So with preoccupied attachment, I don't know for her, I'd have to talk to her, but there are some red flags of that she is assuming that she's going to be abandoned, which is often a hallmark of preoccupied attachment, because you were abandoned, you were abused, you were neglected, you were inconsistently attuned to growing up. And so you just have this assumption that if I'm with someone and and they say they love me, that's temporary. They're definitely going to leave me at some point. And when you come from that assumption, then any indication that you can sort of hang that assumption on, you will hang it on that. So a common one is you text your partner, they don't text you back, and you start to panic because they didn't text you back. It's this automatic assumption like, oh, here it comes. This is when they break up with me. They're cheating on me or whatever. Things like that. So I think, she could be that, or maybe she would describe herself as that. But there's also disorganized attachment, which is indicative of much more scary trauma abuse growing up by one's caregivers that results in someone it's complicated, but the primary experience people will have with disorganized attachment is the closer they get to someone, the more desperate they are for closeness because they've never had attachment security. And at the exact same time, they are utterly terrified of being close to someone and will have overwhelming fear the closer they get, and will have those kinds of paranoias, sometimes semi-delusional, as in with borderline personality disorder, and will be convinced of things that anyone from the outside would say that's not reasonable to assume. So now he's not helping, like I said, and they're both triggering each other, and I don't see this going very well. So let's watch.
So if you're asking for a ring, and I'm not saying any improvement.
Honestly, at this point, fuck the ring. I'm gonna be real with you.
You say that, but earlier this morning you were like, I can't wait to marry you.
Fuck the ring.
Yeah, Shanique, it's immature, it's childish.
Fuck the ring.
Yeah.
And there he goes into the insulting that we've seen from the past. And I'm guessing that inside of her, she is, at least later on, ashamed. Often people who present like this will, for the most part, be terribly ashamed of who they are and have very low self-esteem because of the way they were treated. But they know to just salvage some kind of self-respect, they will come across like they don't care. So similar to Danielle on Love is Blind, I think she is quick to be triggered because of her traumas. And like Nick, Randall is defensive instead of helpful. And I get that. So, but when couples like this come in, and by the way, I've treated many, many couples like this, and it is not hard to treat, by the way. If you're one of those people, you're just like, oh, what do you do? It's not hard. With awareness, you can get some successes done right away. If a couple like Shanique and Randall came in and I saw this interaction, I would essentially explain the way I explained it earlier. I would ask some questions to get at some specificity around attachment style and their inner experience. And with that awareness often comes immediate relief to some extent. At the very least, they're like, oh, I have a roadmap. I'm not crazy. Our relationship isn't terrible. There isn't something wrong with me or my partner. It's just, we're both just trying to love each other, and we're getting triggered and misunderstanding each other based on our previous experiences. And then we continue to trigger each other. So I would first really focus on Shanique because her reactivity is going to potentially cause a lot of immediate issues. With Randall, in all likelihood, he has some issues too. I've hypothesized that he has similar relational traumas, maybe not to the same degree, but similar, that result in him having a hard time. Because even when they manage to be intimate and kind to each other, there's still a distance that is created that seems to be there, and I think he has a hard time trusting. Anyway, so then long term, I would engineer between the two of them earned security where they can actually have experiences between the two of them that actually go well. And it would depend on the two of them knowing their hearts, knowing their primary emotions of fear and of hurt, and knowing that their anger is a result of that so that they can actually speak from that. And in session, I would engineer that so that, just imagine if Shanique were able to say, okay, so when you called me immature the other day, it really hurt my feelings. And you just, and then she gets angry, we can go there later, but stick with the primary emotion of hurt. Okay, well, it hurts my feelings that you called me a name, and you do that frequently, and you know how I feel about it when you call me that, because, my dad used to call me that, and it really hurts me, and I wish you wouldn't do it. Okay. Randall, what do you think about that? Well, I don't know. I mean, sometimes she is immature. No, Randall, let's just follow the steps. Reflect what she's saying. Well, okay, so Shanique, I hear you're saying that you were hurt by me saying that. Okay, Randall, is it reasonable that she was hurt by you saying that? Yeah, I guess it's reasonable. It was an insult. Okay, do you feel bad about it? Well, I don't know. I mean, sometimes Randall, that's anger. Go to the primary emotions, and maybe he doesn't feel bad about it, but I hope he would really. If he didn't, which happens sometimes, I say, well, Randall, be in her shoes. Okay, maybe she is, according to some definition, being immature, but imagine your partner telling you that, just saying you're immature. It's kind of dismissive. It might take some work for me to get Randall to really be in her shoes. That can happen sometimes because people can have a hard time empathizing if there's a lot of fighting, and they haven't been empathized a lot to growing up. So it might take me a while, Randall. Okay, yeah, I understand that would hurt her, but sometimes okay. So Shanique, how does that? So I'm trying to get Shanique to say that hurt my feelings, and for him to say, I understand, that makes sense to me. Maybe not even apologize really, but just say, I get that hurt your feelings, and that's reasonable that it hurt your feelings. That's often the core of an apology. It takes a long time to get there, and I have to really massage it sometimes, and it can be very frustrating to me because I want them to do it, and but things take time, and I have to calm myself down. So, but couples therapy can be very provoking. In fact, I've found, and I have talked with a lot of colleagues and students about this as well, that couples therapy provokes the most countertransference from therapists, meaning the most triggering form of therapy on average is couples therapy, kind of because of the reasons I was saying. But so we'd get Randall to say, okay, I see that that's reasonable that you'd be hurt by that. Okay, Shanique, do you believe him that he understands that it hurt your feelings? And she would say, well, not really, because, and I said, why? Well, I don't know. He just didn't seem like he really cared because of what he said earlier. Okay, Randall, can you convince her that you do care and that you do understand that when you say those kinds of things, it would hurt her? Now, it's a fine line between the two of us shaming Randall for saying something like that and believing in Randall that he has empathy and just eliciting that. You know what I mean? It's a fine line. And I want to have a good enough relationship with Randall that he can handle this kind of space, because basically we're in a section of therapy where we're saying Randall did a bad thing and he needs to admit it, and there needs to be a strong enough relationship for that to happen anyway, because of course Randall has his own issues that I could trigger as an authority figure anyway. So then he spent some time saying, okay, yes, I get it, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said it. And then, Shanique, do you believe him? Yeah, for the most part, but you better not do it again. Okay. So you repeat that over and over and over again. One, those are corrective experiences to help them actually trust each other. Two, it gives them a routine, and practice makes perfect, that they can actually do it much more readily in session and much more readily out of session. You rinse and repeat that both directions over and over and over again, and you recover, not only from your traumas growing up, because you're actually being healed by your partner and by me to some extent, but you're also setting up a routine in yourself of self-awareness and expression and mutual care for each other that actually is very functional and can be applied to all conflicts moving forward. And what I've seen is that over time, eventually there's different phases, and one of the latter phases that I've noticed is that a couple will come to me and they will say, we got triggered, and 10 minutes later, I actually remembered what to say, and I looked inward, and then I communicated to her, and then we actually, recovered from the conflict. When 5 years ago, that conflict would have lasted all weekend long, and we would have come in today not talking to each other. So it takes a long time, and for some couples, and I'm guessing for this couple, it could take, to get to that point, it could take at least a few years. And I know for some people, they're like, therapy takes that long? And I'm like, yeah, therapy does take that long. Some models of therapy claim that they can fix things in a short amount of time. The evidence isn't there. Can you help little bits and pieces in a short amount of time? Yes, but not the kinds of things that we're talking about here.
It's childish. You being childish, and you'll see how childish you're being right now. So.
Yeah, I'm sad for them. He's saying, you're childish, you're immature, you're childish, you're immature. She's saying, F the ring, F the ring, F the ring, walks away, stonewalling, insulting, harm, resentment builds, more distrust of each other, more distrust of partners in general. Yeah, it makes me really sad for them.
To be honest, though, I think it at first was hard because we're so used to seeing each other. So, like, not being able to communicate for like 3 weeks, that was something, that was really tough.
So you lived with somebody for a couple of weeks. How was that?
I actually enjoyed my time. And I was...
Wait, you said enjoyed?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought both of them enjoyed their time with their other person, Shanique included with Zay. So he's being honest about it. I think he should read the room and say, like, well, it was fine, but, it's not like it was with Shanique or something like that. Now, maybe he does want to be with Madeline. Maybe Shanique does have some concern there that's legit.
I didn't hate it.
You got to clarify that, right?
Yeah, like, I enjoyed it. Like, I felt like we had a great time living together. Like, we didn't go back and forth on a lot of things. We had a lot of...
Shanique go back and forth?
Right, so that seems to be either an inadvertent attack or criticism of Shanique in front of her family, or purposeful, saying, well, with me and Madeline, we didn't go back and forth with a lot of things. We saw a scene where they did, but and implying that I do with Shanique. Okay, if you have that concern, for sure, talk with Shanique, but don't talk about it in this indirect way. But I don't know, maybe he's just being honest about what happened.
I'm not saying Shanique and I go back and forth, but...
Do you feel connected to her?
Like, connected in which way?
Sexually, emotionally?
Well, we never got into the sexual aspect of it. Emotionally, I say yes. I think that's kind of how we were able to kind of pull some things out of each other,
right.
Like open up more, be more vulnerable.
Okay, so either Randall wants Shanique to get triggered and get upset at him, or he's not aware of what he's saying and that it could trigger Shanique and the family, or he actually wants to be with Madeline, and he is setting up he's laying the groundwork for that happening. So I don't think this is going to go well for the two of them. Hopefully I say hopefully they can talk about it in a way that meets both of their needs, but they haven't up to this point. So I'm really worried about what's going to happen.
Why 2.5 years it took, the direction where she's, giving you the ultimatum.
Why is it taking you so long to realize, as amazing in Shanique is, why?
I don't think this is going to go well. I think Randall's going to say his experience, distorted or otherwise, that Shanique is combative with him. So I don't think this is going to go well, because I don't think this is the place to talk about it, because I don't think Shanique is going to appreciate that. I don't know. Maybe it'll be constructive.
I felt more open speaking about what things I need Shanique to work on, and she's spoken a lot about what I need to work on myself. For her, it was like, I want this ring, I want this wedding. In my mind, like, I would love to be our best selves before we do take that next step. I mean, we've been together for 2.5 years, and of course, there's some people that date for 5 before they get engaged and married.
He's not I think, being super direct about what he thinks need to change, maybe for the best. So yeah, he's just saying a lot of things to people. But it's interesting that he said, because in the beginning of the season he's like, I want to be financially secure, but now he's recognized, and maybe after being with Madeline and experiencing a different vibe, he's like, oh, I don't like it when I fight all the time, or when Shanique does that reactivity to me. And so maybe that was really why I was hesitating to get married, but I was just saying financial security because I didn't want to face that issue.
Well, why does it feel rushed? Well, because if he's not technically ready, is it about the ring?
For me, the ring symbolizes intention. Like, we can talk about these things hypothetically while we're dating, but it's just a fairy tale at this point. Like, it's a lot of...
Yeah, often for preoccupied attached people, anxiously attached people, they will, not all the time, of course, but they will be very focused on the next phase of depth in relationship, whether it's, are we exclusive? Are we in love? Are we engaged? Are we married? Are you willing to have kids with me? Do we have kids? Not because they want to actually take the next step. Maybe they do, but a good portion of their motivation to get to that milestone is because they believe that it will help them to feel more secure. They believe, and without that, every day there's an intrusive thought of, they're going to leave you, they're going to leave you, they're going to leave you. And you think, well, if I have that ring, then it, as she says, it demonstrates intention, and maybe then I can finally feel secure. But that usually does not work, because the attachment insecurity is a lifetime of experiences that cannot be corrected with a ring. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.